Have you ever noticed you feel like a completely different person when you feel safe?
My name is Ellie. This is a space for self-growth, healing and honest conversations. If you're growing, healing or just figuring things out, you're in the right place.
Today's video, I'm going to be gathering on more from that idea. There are little subgenres in this video, and I'm going to be talking about how growing up has changed my opinion of feeling safe, what has caused me as an autistic person not to feel safe. Growing up, a lot of us feel different, and we feel different because we may act a different way, like we may exaggerate our facial expressions because we're trying to fit in, we're trying to show people that, like, we do have expressions when, like, usually we would just like to relax our face and not get comments, because I usually get comments sometimes on my facial expressions, even if people know me, like, are you okay, you look a bit upset, but like, no, I'm okay. I just don't feel the need to constantly be on guard and constantly have to exaggerate my facial expressions. Again, leading to the idea of masking will be perceived as sensitive, weird, quirky, different. The reason for that is because we don't fit the norm. We don't fit the norm of when you reach adulthood, you should be a certain way, you should act a certain way, you should dress a certain way, and not like your childhood things. Like, I like playing games still, I read sometimes. A lot of experiences I had to be careful in was people who were my age, but people who were the complete opposite. I could be friends with someone who was a lot more mature, in the sense they didn't like programs you would have liked when you were younger, but you like those programs still. You dress still like maybe you were someone who you were younger, but you do that because you feel the nostalgia and you feel the need of feeling safe, having that childhood show that you kind of still watch. You feel out of place compared to someone who would have grown up from that and would have got more adult hobbies, like, I don't know, like scrolling on their phone more, watching YouTube, but kind of it's hard to explain. Something pretty basic, I guess, something that some people wouldn't perceive as watching when you're older. I don't really know how to explain it. It's a hard one. So it made you feel careful. You get made fun of it because you didn't fit the adult norm that people who are neurotypical would at that age. People say a lot of people who are autistic seem younger, and I'd have to disagree. It's just the way our brains like things still. Leading on to the idea, I realised, like, why do I like these things? Why do I still like unicorns at like 12, 13 years old? And people had grown out by the time they were like 11, 10. From the masking and the unmasking, it caused trauma. I know specifically for me and my experience, I was a lot more naive, considering for some people my age, like being friends with people who are a little bit older or people who are my age but were more mature in that sense. I was still like fixated on like my favorite, movie character or comic character, and then I got pulled into situations that were more adult-like. It made me feel like I had to fit into that, and I had to start dressing a certain way, be more basic, not like unicorns, not like my favorite character from a show. It felt like a lot of that personality was dimmed down, turning into like more looking after my skin rather than sitting down and watch a childhood show still. Getting into things that were related to drama and would get you hurt, and, normal teenage school things. It feels difficult to relax in the situations you're pretending to be older in. I think at 16, I didn't feel 16 in my way. I like to be that 16-year-old who is mature but who also love my favourite character from a show, who also loves Spider-Man, and like I never wanted to let that go. And I think the trauma has also kept us as autistic people to have those nostalgic things a lot more when we're older, because our brain works in such a fascinating way where we still love the childhood things, but I think for me, a lot of my childhood was taken from those situations. So now I still put my childhood things into adulthood, and I don't class it as childhood. I class it as actually having a personality and being my own person, because I wouldn't want to be someone who'd get rid of those things or replace it with boring adult responsibilities. Yes, you have to be an adult, but that does not mean you have to get rid of those childhood dreams or childhood shows you love because other people did that. That was one of the ways that made me feel different. I look back and I regret it so much, putting myself in situations. I acted older than I was because I was trying to fit in to the people I was friends with, who I was associated with. What come out was me getting home, getting upset, knowing the people around me don't actually know who I am. They just see a false image of this person who loves what they like, who likes to go out partying, who likes to do this and that, when like really I'd rather be in a small group and I'd rather sit with my mate and watch a film that I absolutely love from my childhood. And that's a really hard thing to talk about. I want to research more into it. I don't know why we like these sort of things still. I think a lot of it comes from maybe the fact of you've masked so much when you were younger and you were so hyper aware of the surroundings around you that you closed off your childhood. You put yourself in a position to be more of a responsible adult, so then in adulthood life now it's coming out, you know, the childhood that you still want to have in your adult life. So I talked about in my other one, unpredictable or chaotic environments that feel really overwhelming. So we're masking and we're trying to fit this image, we're trying to be like the same people our age, but we don't feel like it. Then you figure out who you are in a way, and you start surrounding yourself or putting yourself in situations that are completely different to what you would put yourself in when you were younger, when you were still figuring it out, when you were still figuring your diagnosis or who you were as a person. I know that I started to surround myself with different people, with people who are actually my people, with people who were stable, who were emotionally intelligent, and that was always me deep down, but I was also trying to put on a persona to make those other people like me, to fit into what people would call my age that you should be. You should be out drinking, partying, like, it's not really my thing. It's nice to go out with a small group of friends, but from my experiences, it's not something I like to participate in particularly. I'd much rather chill at home or watch something. And a lot of us as well, we may not even like that when we're this age and we don't have these things. But we will also try and fit in. We will try and build that little mold, be a team, do this, party, drink, whatever. But like, we really don't want to do that. 'Cause some of us might not even want to. And not every teen's like that, but the stereotypical thing the world calls a teen, you should do this and that. Or because I experienced it at a younger age, it like kind of flipped me into new experiences and gone like, right, this isn't for me. So I didn't came up with this thing. I remember scrolling on my TikTok, and this is what made me feel safe. My room and my colouring. And there used to be a part of me where I hated my room, and I think it was because it wasn't very organised. I didn't really know what anything was. But now, because I've organised it and I do, it's such a calm feeling. I love my room. It's still like a work in progress, as you can see. But we're getting there. I've saved up for my room. I'm going to get it done. I don't know when. I don't know. Life is crazy, but I'm hoping I do. And then I came up with this thing where I wanted to like colour, because it came on my TikTok, I know who you pens, and I was like, this makes me feel safe colouring in my room. So I was like, this is more me. People would maybe stereotypicalise as being a child. So fucking more. I want to be a child in that sense. I want to colour. And I looked into the Reddit community and people who colour. There's a lot of people who are adults as well. Like me and my mum always sit down and colour. Like it's such a really therapeutic, healing thing, and it makes me feel good and like I'm doing something good. And I was like experimenting in these things, you know, trying to heal my trauma from the past. And it made my autistic brain absolutely feel like it had been free, because I was sitting down finally listening to what I wanted, to have no adult responsible stress in that sense, and to then have friends who like that sort of thing, who like crafty things, who are emotionally intelligent, who are getting on with their life, even if they find it hard and they have their diagnosis, or if they don't, or even people who are neurotypical, but they like those sort of things and are not into partying. And it was good because from that you would bond through people. For me, I bonded through people who like colouring, I bonded through people who were genuine, who were nice, who preferred smaller groups. And I'm just, like, I know now like what I want to be associated with, even sometimes if it seems a bit like to other people. And my inner child started to come out. I started to invest into cool little collection hobbies. I started to invest into scrapbooking, to my podcast, because it makes me really happy talking about it. It was just something that itched my scratch for such a long time. Recently, I've had this thing. I've had to stay in my room for a while because of a surgery. Some people know, some people may not know. It's private, but I've told a couple people who are close to me, people who know in general. But I spoke to some people and they said it was normal what you're going through. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but it sucks because I'm kind of bedbound in my house. I'm getting there. I've managed to get change of it today. But through that, I've realised healing yourself through just lying there, doing things you would have never had time for as an adult, as a newly adult, colouring, giving it a go, having more patience, because it teaches you to have more patience because we're so fixated on our phones, and I know I am still. The dopamine rush is crazy from that. And to actually sit down and think about, what shade am I going to do? What colour? How am I going to make this my next project in a different way? How am I going to do this? Blah, blah, blah. You get the gist. Those parts of me were completely locked away from these situations I was put in. And I look and think, like, that wasn't actually my fault. You go through life blaming yourself for being hurt, but it actually is the environments around you. You may have put yourself in that, but that's okay because you're discovering it. As long as you get yourself out, then it looks and you feel like you were the one who put that on you, but really you weren't. It was the other situations blaming you for that, and then you realize it wasn't actually me. Like, I'm growing and I've grown from that, and that's what made me feel calm. I was like, I'm sat here colouring, playing my Roblox. This is what I was missing a lot of my life, because I had no choice but to chill and sit there, and it was such a comforting feeling, and it still is. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't be asked. But in those times I need it, when I want to be stress free, it works. And like, that's a part of me I want to keep my child, and I never want to get rid of that. I kind of looked into it, I did research, but for a second, it made me enter the flow state. I kind of always am in a flow state because I'm always really hyperfixated on stuff. And as an autistic person, it's a lot easier for us to get fixated on things we love, and especially if it's bringing out our childhood that we've locked away, or people have locked away from us, and now we're unlocking it. It's the best thing. You lose track of time, you get absorbed in it, you're not thinking of anything else. Your brain for once is finally switching off, and it's accepting who you should always be and who you were always going to be, and you've kind of figured that out. Like, we always change, but I feel like to heal our inner child and to heal things that hurt us and trauma is just giving it a go, and you don't have a choice but to rest and just seeing how you react to it. I think from healing that trauma, you need to give yourself things your inner child always wanted, but you were never allowed to do, or things you locked away, and then you realize when you sit down, like, this is what I've been missing my whole life. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing I figured out, but it's also deeply interesting and deeply soothing and calming to know that. I don't have to protect myself. Maybe this is who I always was, and that's what makes you emotional when you figure that out. And that is a hard one. It's not, as someone who's gone through that whole process, up and down, and it still is, with diagnosis, with everything, with getting help, it's never an easy road at all. But I don't know, you figure it out some way or another, but it's still never a straight road when you do, because you always change. But yeah, this is such an empowering video. I always love these ones, the ones that are relatable. I'm trying to keep it relatable because it makes it unique, and I love it. I love it. Favorite part of my day is when I feel like getting up and recording a podcast. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!